Hello and welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast. I'm your host, Savannah Madden, acting coach, award-winning theatre school owner and business coach for performing arts professionals who want more time, more income and zero burnout. There's a particular kind of magic that happens when someone manages to combine deep subject knowledge with a genuine joy for sharing it. It's the kind of energy that not only lights up classrooms, but ripples outward, reaching people you've never even met. My guest today has built her career on that very magic. Katie Zakkak is an American drama educator whose career blends rigorous training with a passion for creative teaching. She holds an MA in educational theatre from NYU and brings more than 8 years of full-time teaching experience to her work. For 4 years, Katie served as drama teacher and play director at Cecilia Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, where she guided students through the entire process of storytelling on stage, from the first table read to the final bow, creating spaces where young performers could grow both in skill and confidence. Earlier this year, Katie and her family moved to Alabama, where she now balances time at home with her children, part-time teaching at a local youth theatre, and running her business, Much Ado About Drama. Through her Teachers Pay Teachers store, she creates engaging, ready-to-use drama resources for educators around the world. Her materials reflect both her academic grounding in theatre and her lived experience in the classroom, making them practical, inspiring and deeply supportive for other drama teachers. It's this dual world that fascinates me. Part dedicated classroom practitioner shaping the next generation of theatre makers, part creative entrepreneur equipping fellow educators to feel more prepared, more supported and more inspired. I can't wait to explore both sides of her work and the through line that connects them. Katie Zakkak, welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast.
Thank you so much, Savannah. That was such a kind introduction, and I am so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. That is so amazing. I'm so delighted that we have connected and that we are able to be here together recording this podcast today. Can you take us back a bit? How did you first find your way into drama education? Let's get to it.
Yes, I started in theater when I was 7 years old. I did Peter Pan, and I was one of like 200 kids in the cast, and I just fell in love with it. And I had always been interested in teaching. When people asked me what you want to be when you grow up, I said a teacher. And then, I got to college. I'm like, do I study education? Do I study theater? Because I love theater so much. And so for my undergrad, I did do theater. And towards the end of it, I started directing. So that was my big project at the end of my senior year, was directing a full-length play. And I loved the directing side. And so when I discovered the program at NYU that was a theater education program where you actually get your teaching credential while you're in the program, I said, I think that is my path. And I have not looked back.
What a journey. So you trained at NYU in educational theatre. Can you tell us about what that experience was like and how did it shape the way you teach now?
Yes. I loved living in New York. It was pretty fun. The first semester, at least, I was there, I lived on 36th and 8th, which is very close to Broadway. Like, I could walk to Times Square and see a Broadway show that night. They had a lot of like student rush tickets where you can get discounted prices if you go right when the box office opens in the morning. And so I got the experience of professional live theater a ton when I was there, which was amazing. And then I got to work with so many amazing professors and theater professionals in school settings and outside of school settings, and all kinds of students with different backgrounds and different ages. And so from literal Broadway professionals to just students who were in the public school who deserve a chance to be part of the arts. And I have taken all those experiences and used them in the classroom since I've become a teacher.
Wow, that's so incredible. So living that close, I mean, for people who live in the UK, I suppose they can equate that to living near the West End, but
Yes.
I think that New York's got quite a special atmosphere, hasn't it? I have been myself quite a long time ago, and I've seen a Broadway show, but it's just got a special kind of magic. Maybe people say that about London, but being just immersed in that world must have been so inspiring and really helping with the rest of your education as well, I can
Yes.
imagine.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I still have all my
Um,
playbills from the shows.
Oh, that is so great. I love that. I love that. But you previously have worked at St. Cecilia's
Mhm.
Academy. You were there for 4 years.
Yes.
So what was a typical day like in your drama classroom?
Yeah. So I taught a few classes there. So one was it was called VAP, Visual and Performing Arts class, which was a freshman drama class that rotated through all of the performing arts. So art, dance, drama, and voice. And so every student who was coming in got that rotation and got experience in all of those areas. And I loved that class because there were people who would come in who never would have joined theater in their lives. And they ended up really loving it and doing theater for the entire 4 years that they were at the school and having it become like their thing. And then I also taught an upper level drama, which was more acting focused class, as well as a technical theater class. And then I did the productions after school, which was also just a huge part of everything. And I tried to have the productions be as student led as possible. So we had student stage managers, student designers, and everyone, there were adults who helped too, but all of those areas, particularly when it actually came to the show, our tech was all run by students. And I loved being able to really kind of foster that, but then put it on them and have them like take full ownership of the show, not just the acting, but the backstage side too.
That sounds awesome. Did you have any other team members to support you at all in that school, or were you it?
Yeah. So we had our fine arts department, which were some of those other teachers I mentioned, like in the VAP class, but I was the only drama teacher. And so we would always kind of joke like, oh, we're a department of departments because it's like the fine arts department, but we all have our own things within that. So like I said, I had some adults who came and helped. I had like a costumer for musicals. I usually would have a choreographer and a music director, and then an adult who was like our production stage manager who kind of led the student team. But as far as like a full-time salaried person running this department, I was the only theater
You were the
specific
only
person.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So much responsibility. But that VAP class sounds so fun. I'm not surprised so many people continued their studies after doing that because
Yeah.
that sounds like you're covering all bases there. Sounds super, super fun. But I mentioned in the introduction that you have a Teachers Pay Teachers store and you started that a few years ago. So what inspired you to begin creating and selling resources?
Well, I think what I said about kind of being the only person in my department, it's an experience, at least in the States, it's something that a lot of schools, unless it's like a performing arts specific school, a lot of schools will only have one drama teacher. And even before I was at St. Cecilia, I did like K through 8th, and I was the only drama teacher, and each of those grades did a performance of some kind, whether a full play or musical or just a short thing. But I recognize how much work, because I physically lived it, goes into both planning for classes and the huge thing of planning for productions too, which even other teachers in other areas don't necessarily experience. Teachers work very hard, but it's like a different kind of working hard when you're planning for an entire production that people from the public are going to come see. I mean, our musicals would have as many as 2,000 people coming onto our campus to see
Wow.
the show. So, it has to like be a good quality show too. There's an
Absolutely,
expectation
yeah.
there. And so as I was developing things that helped with my organization and my time to kind of streamline those things, I thought, oh, this would be, doing this store would be a good way to share this, as well as like make a little bit extra income because, teachers, we're capped at a certain salary and we make it work because we love what we do. But like many teachers have side hustles, it became my little side hustle too.
I love the analogy of the side hustle. It's so good. It's becoming like a real thing. I imagine globally, but it's definitely massive over here in the UK. Can you just give us a few examples of some of the resources you have in your Teachers Pay Teachers store?
Sure. So the big thing that I worked on that I finished this summer was a semester-long curriculum. And so it has 9 units, I believe, starting with ensemble building all the way through, some acting focused things, and then backstage like technical theater introduction unit and directing unit, like student directed scenes. So that was kind of the big like project that if people buy it like as a bundle, they save 20% versus buying like the individual units. And then I also have some production resources because, like I said, that was where even like finding other things for myself, it was hard to find stuff out there to help like streamline production. So I have like an audition materials packet to help organize auditions. And I have also a rehearsal materials packet that includes like a rehearsal scheduling template and also like a book for performers. So kind of like something that would work for any show, but like to actually analyze their characters and kind of go through that process as performers, as well as like rehearsal exercises and game warm-up ideas.
So it would suit so many people. It would suit the teacher who's just qualified, they're just stepping into their new role and they've got all of these ready-made resources to help them, but also perfect for the seasoned teacher who's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, turned it inside out and absolutely everything else you can think of, because they need some fresh stuff, they need some new inspiration. So it really covers so many different clients, doesn't it?
I mean, that's absolutely my hope, is that it would help all kinds of teachers.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. So I believe that you have now expanded to a blog and a YouTube channel. So that's no mean feat. And was that a natural step in growing your business, or was it a big leap out of your comfort zone?
I think both. So it was something I thought about for a long time, and like the types of things I could talk about, because so many, different situations come up working on productions, working in the classroom. I'm like, oh, I could write about this and it could help someone. But I also got nervous about actually putting my face out there, and my work out there because it's so personal. But especially after I ended this, the end of this school year, and then we did this move, and I have a little bit more time at least because I'm not, working full time anymore. I said, you know what? I'm going to just do it. And I hope it just reaches the right people and helps whoever, it will be helpful for.
That's so great that you're willing to put yourself out there, because just because we're drama teachers, acting coaches, doesn't mean that we're happy to be in front of an audience, whether that's a live one or a camera, all of the time. It might be that we're really good at helping other people do that, but we might not always feel comfortable doing it ourselves, or we might feel really, really good about it and really confident, but still have those little doubts or little moments of imposter syndrome. So I just think anybody that's prepared to put themselves out there and, come on a podcast, anything like that, it's great, isn't it? Because we're just trying to share what we know. And sometimes I find listening to other people talk about what they do within our industry, it's really reassuring that we're all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, But the next kind of stage in your business is that you're going to be offering private coaching, some one-to-one stuff. So what's most exciting for you about working with people privately on a one-to-one basis?
I think when you were working one-on-one, you really get to delve in a way that you can't fully do in a classroom setting with 30 students. And I love, people who are at the point where they're seeking private acting. Often they know certain goals that they have. Maybe they want to get into a conservatory program, or they know they want to go into this professionally, or they're just trying to figure that out. But I like that part of it is really getting those like one-on-one goals and then getting to fully shape those lessons with those goals, and, trying out different material. We're finding a monologue together. We're trying different things, and, watching those discoveries happen in that setting. It's just, it's fulfilling in a different way. You get that in the classroom for sure with groups of people, but to really say like, oh, I'm helping someone like figure out their career, that's exciting.
It is. And it's a huge transition going from teaching 30 people at a time to being one-on-one. But you'll really get to know that person. You'll get to build a really strong connection with them. You'll find out how well they respond to your different teaching techniques and what works for them and what doesn't. So it's a really great role to have. I predominantly only teach on a one-to-one basis, and I developed that from going from group coaching to one-to-ones. And I had a lot of private coaching as a child. I was very, very lucky. I had private singing lessons. I'd had a couple of private dance lessons. I never had private acting coaching, which is funny, but I absolutely loved that one-on-one time with my singing teacher. It was so great because you can just really be yourself and have less inhibitions as well, because you're not surrounded by loads of other people and lots of noise and, all that sort of thing. I say noise as in lots of people saying lots of different things, not necessarily literal noise. But I'm sure it's pretty noisy, isn't it, in singing and acting classes, isn't it?
You gotta be willing to go for it if you're gonna.
That's it.
That's the career you want.
Totally. But we touched on earlier the fact that you have been running departments single-handedly for most of your career, and now you're a solo business owner. And so have you felt moments where you've just felt really lonely and like you haven't got anybody to sort of bounce off of, or, run ideas past? I'm sure you have other people in your network that you can do that with, but people that you're working with as such.
Sure. I think in both roles that exists, and there's a temptation sometimes in the kind of not being able to bounce ideas off. There's a temptation to run into like 20 different directions rather than being focused, because usually like if you're in a meeting with a team, there's an agenda and you're going through those things. And I sometimes like struggle to actually, because I'm holding myself accountable in both the one-person department situation and now in the small business side hustle situation. And just like kind of seeking others who understand. Like even within the world of the Teachers Pay Teachers store, I've connected with some other TPT sellers, which is great. But there's not a lot of like drama Teachers Pay Teachers sellers. They exist, but like at least of, the kind of groups that I've been on and stuff, there's like other, like performing arts sellers, but I haven't specifically connected with a drama one yet, just because there's not that many of us.
I mean, it's such a narrow niche, isn't it?
Which can be good and
absolutely.
a struggle,
I'm finding that with my Acting Coach Network business, that my target audience are drama teachers, performing arts business owners, dance studio owners. There are only so many of those. But I think when you're starting off in something, my business coach told me that you start off in a really, really niche environment. So it's really clear who you're targeting. And then once your business grows, then you can branch out to more people, because designing resources for acting coaches, you could then design resources for anything else that you know about, which I'm sure you have loads of other things that you know about. So finding your audience in this narrow niche can be tricky. So what other ways have you managed to tackle that challenge?
I mean, I'm still in the process of doing it. I think, that was a big part of the choice to go for it with the blog and the YouTube channel. And because I feel like I have all this knowledge and I want to give it. And that's the way to do it, is you got to just like put the stuff out there and, hope that the right people find it. And it's definitely not this huge, like, oh, so fast, so many followers, so many subscribers, but there's people who are finding it, slowly but surely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then on Teachers Pay Teachers itself, they have like a followers kind of system where people can follow your stuff so that it notifies them when new things come out. And so it's kind of just through all these different little networks and, hoping that I'm putting out there, good things that are helpful, and that then the right people will come into my audience so that it's, mutually beneficial for me and anyone who's looking at my material.
Totally. But audience growth and visibility are just really hard online these days, because there are so many people doing it. Just the online business world is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, isn't it? So it's natural that it's a tricky beast, but I think consistency is key, is what they say, isn't it?
Yep. That's what I'm trying to do it.
That's it. That's right. That's right. And just sort of in terms of how you try and find those people, does your knowledge and expertise go as far as like keywords,
Mhm.
hashtags, and all of that, because it can just be a bit of a beast, can't it? And
Yes.
have you learned anything that you could sort of give any tidbits to us that are also
Sure.
doing the same thing?
I'll share what I can. So I use a plugin called Keywords Everywhere,
Mm.
and it connects to Google and Pinterest and even like Etsy. It in like YouTube too. And so you basically try out different keywords, and then it has like, so if I were to type in like drama teacher resources, it'll tell you what the search volume is, what the competition is, and then it has some other like suggested keywords that come up. And so I just try to save those and then see how I can integrate them into what I'm putting out there. So like if I'm doing a blog post, I'm like, okay, let's make sure that this main keyword is in the header one for the blog post. And then you can use like for the header twos, the subsections of the blog post, you try to use like other keywords in the other parts of the header. And then same thing with like YouTube, you're trying to make sure your title is discoverable with things that people are searching for. And I'm sure the same can be used, if you have an actual acting studio, you can use a similar technique. Oftentimes, like acting classes near me is a common search term and things like that. So if you used a plugin such as Keywords Everywhere, there's several of them out there, but just kind of play around with different keywords, and then you make sure that those same keywords are matching what is on your website or your YouTube channel or whatever it is that you're putting out there to then attract clients.
Amazing. So we all need to be using keywords everywhere, basically. I love that.
It's pretty inexpensive too. I feel like it's $20 for the year or something like. I
Yeah.
don't quote me on it. I didn't look it up right before this, but
Don't worry.
it's a reasonable
we can all find out for
something
ourselves.
around that.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. And other than those kinds of ways, are you hanging out in any groups and talking about your services, and things like that? Are you doing that kind of thing?
Yeah. So there's some really good size and active Facebook groups for drama teachers and directors. A lot of them have, specific like no spam, like don't, so I'm careful about what I post, right? There's one in particular that's really active that has like on the first of the month, you're allowed to share a service or something you're selling or whatever. So I usually am on there on the first of the month, but I try to be active in those groups other times too, and to just be helpful, like if I have something, if someone's asking a question and I have a good answer to it, just genuinely like, yeah, here's what I did, when I ran into that situation, or here's a play I might consider if I have, the same group that you're talking about. And part of being in on there is discovering what kind of questions people are asking, what problems they're running into maybe that don't come up when you're doing the SEO research, because it's not something someone's typing into Google, it's something they're asking on this forum, right? But you're learning about what kind of problem you might be able to solve. And then it gives me ideas for like products that I can create for people too. How can I, all these like people asking the same question a lot. So like, what can I do to help solve the problem for them?
Yeah, that's a great way to do your market research in what do the people want. So
Yeah,
that's
so right on
amazing.
there.
And also these kinds of groups are great places to build relationships with people and build your credibility as well. The more you're helping people, answering questions, having discussions, it proves that you know exactly what you're talking about, you've got all this experience, and then people will be more likely to then go and buy your resources as well. So it's a really good, authentic, credible way, I think, to build relationships, build trust, and hopefully in the end you get some sales along the way as well, which is always nice, isn't it?
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So with these resources, can I assume that you're using Canva to create them? Would that be a fair assumption?
I love Canva.
You do? Oh, brilliant. Okay, right then. So what are your top tips for someone wanting to create their own resources or something similar?
Sure. So one thing I don't know about the UK. In the States, if you're using it just for educational purposes, you can get an educator plan, which is the equivalent of a pro plan for free. So
That is true in the UK as well.
okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So that's one thing just to know that in case you didn't know that. You can't
I
sell
only
resources.
found that out last week. Can I just point out?
Yeah. So something to know, like that doesn't count. It makes sense. Like they don't want you to use it commercially if you're doing that. So if you want to do similar to what I'm doing and sell resources, you do have to have a pro account. So putting that out there. But if you're doing it like for your own classroom, if you're, creating audition flyers or just whatever in your own classroom, it is out there for people to use. So what I love about it, I was someone who never considered myself very good at like graphic design or, making things look pretty. And I started just figuring out how to use it. And it's so user friendly because it's just like the drag and drop kind of features. And you can make things whatever size you need it to be so easily. It has all these templates for size already, right? For, you can type in like Instagram and it'll have stuff for an Instagram reel, Instagram posts, Instagram stories, and worksheet, for example, you type in and then it does an 8.5 by 11 or probably in centimeters. in other places in the world. But what's nice too is you can, especially if you're not using it to sell, you can go to templates and then just find something that's similar to what you need. So if you start it as a worksheet, then it's going to know that that's like the type of thing you're trying to find. And then they also have come up with more and more AI kind of features lately where you can specifically type in at the top of the templates page, like a description of what you're looking for. And it will either find templates that already like that someone else pre-made that are like that, or it will even like kind of create one for you. I find like those are hit or miss with the ones they create for you, but it's a start for sure.
I tried it the other day just to be curious because someone told me they used ChatGPT to create something and it was an absolute disaster. So I had a go and it missed out loads of words. It spelt things incorrectly. It was all quite weird, but the gist of it was right. It understood what I wanted, but there was no way I could have used it. And they don't really let you edit it very much, do they? Because it's
on ChatGPT,
no, on Canva.
I guess it depends on it. Were you just creating like an image?
Yes.
Okay. If you do it in the templates section, then you can edit it.
Because I could definitely change the colours.
Yeah.
I just couldn't change the words that it created.
Oh dear. Well, so even with that, it's gotten better at being able to edit it because you can go to Magic Studio and then there's a word grab. So it actually, even from an image, if you click grab words and then you select like which words you want it to grab, but then it turns it into editable text. And so that can be a really helpful thing. It might change what it looks like if it was a flat image, whether it's an AI generated image or just a regular image. But if it was a flat image, it might change because it has to change it to like a font that it has in Canva when it does that. And so the font might change a little bit because it just picks like what it thinks is the closest font to what it detects as far as the words. But it can be a really helpful thing for being able to change the words, like what it comes up with.
Absolutely. And with your content that you create, obviously you have your paid resources in your store, but your content through your blog and your YouTube is free of charge. So why is it important to you to have both? And have you had any responses from the teachers that have used your resources, whether they are paid for or free?
So I think it's important, being like the lone drama teacher, as we were talking about earlier, to share openly, what we can, especially of just like the knowledge side of things, right? And I want it to be helpful for anyone at any budget, right? So I'm trying to make sure that the content that I'm putting out there for free is good content that will help, even if someone can't necessarily afford to buy a resource. And then, the paid resources are a little bit more all-inclusive and, have it like ready to go for you with the curriculum. My goal, if someone's purchasing a resource, is for them, you obviously should like review the lesson plan and all of those things that we have to do as a teacher. But my goal is to have everything where like the worksheets, the PowerPoints, everything is just, they can put it up and not have to, do a lot of work. And so, if you're not purchasing anything, if you're making it yourself, you're going to have some time that you're putting into that. But I'm hoping that my ideas that I'm sharing on the blog and the YouTube channel can help, even if someone doesn't have the budget to, buy something. I have, in order to get feedback, I've had some friends who I've provided the resources to for free so that I can make sure that they're really good, for people who are paying for them. And overall, they've really liked them. And then they've given feedback that's helped me to adapt them even further. And like, oh, add the rubric, right at the bottom of the page, because that makes it easier to grade really quickly. Just an example of something I started putting, like just a mini 5-point rubric on the bottom of my worksheet pages after some feedback from colleagues. And my store itself has a really good rating. It's 4.8 stars out of 5, between the different things that have been reviewed. So just that tells me okay, people are pretty satisfied with what they're getting, which is good, because I don't want to just be putting things out there that aren't helpful to people.
No, it's a waste of everyone's time, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. And so, to get some good feedback and say hey, this is actually helping me. My students are really enjoying this. It engaged them in a new way that they hadn't been engaged before. That's actually really what I want to be doing when I'm putting these out there. And so it's exciting when, I hear that students are really liking it. And it's hey, I'm making a bigger impact even outside of my own classroom.
That's it. And also, it's just so rife in our industry how busy teachers and coaches are.
Yes.
I know it happens in loads and loads of different sectors, but the teaching profession specifically, regardless of what subject you're teaching, everyone is overworked, aren't they? Especially, I don't know what it's like over in the States, but in the UK, our numbers are dwindling every year. More teachers are leaving the profession.
Similar issues in the States.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then in the performing arts industry, everyone is always doing more than is expected of them, because it's kind of drummed into us that we've just got to go above and beyond with everything. So having the convenience of all these resources at one's fingertips, whether they are paying for them or getting the free resources online, it just is another way to make people's life a little bit easier, isn't it? And help maybe with planning and preparation and ensuring that they're keeping everything fresh. I think that's also really important, because we can get a bit stuck in our ways, can't we? This has always worked, so I'm going to carry on doing it. No, you could just mix it up a little bit. But we are kind of coming up to wrapping things up now, Katie. So I would love to ask you, and I ask every single guest that comes on the show this question, and that is, if you could give one piece of advice to a fellow creative who's feeling a bit stuck or a bit unsure right now, what would it be?
I would say try to reach out in whatever way you can, because we've been talking about that kind of feeling of isolation. And I feel like that's what can get us stuck more than anything. So even if you are the only person, if it's your own studio and you're running it all by yourself, or if you're the sole theater teacher at a school, there are people, whether it's online or, in whatever version of theater community you have in your area, that are like-minded. They exist, even if they're not right there. So I would say seek out, whether it's online or in person, people who you can bounce those ideas off of, because part of what we do is collaborate, and it's just natural in the creative process to involve other humans in that. And so I would say find some way to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, my inbox is always open to bounce ideas around or ask for advice or anything like that. So, which I'm sure you would say the same thing. So it's just making sure people know that, isn't it? Because I think sometimes we find it hard to ask for help, don't we? But that's such a great piece of advice, especially if you are working alone. It can feel a bit like saying it out into the void sort of thing, but there are definitely plenty of people out there. Oh, Katie, that has been so great. You have given so many wonderful nuggets of wisdom to us, and you've been very generous with your time, with your expertise, and with all the information that you've given us. So thank you. Where can people find out more about you, your work? Where can we connect with you? Tell us.
So my website is muchadoaboutdrama.com. And I've also created a free resource, which is the Drama Classroom Toolkit, that it links to several other of my freebies, like audition tips and a production checklist. But it's more the main little mini ebook that it is about goal setting and just kind of figuring out how, you can have a good either school year or in your studio or whatever it might be. And then so you get that by having it emailed to you. And then that also signs you up for my newsletter where I'm sharing when I'm updating, videos and have new blog posts and just hopefully more helpful things coming into your inbox for those who pick that up.
Fantastic. And are you on Instagram as well?
I am. So that's also at Much Ado About Drama. And YouTube is
Fabulous.
the same at Much Ado About Drama. So I was able to get
Excellent.
get that word for it wasn't taken. And I'm like, okay, let's grab it on all the
I love that for
platforms.
you.
Yes.
That's brilliant. We will link all of that up in the show notes so that listeners can just go and click straight on and be taken wherever they want to go. That is Much Ado About Drama
Wonderful.
based.
Thank you so much. It's been so lovely talking to you. And I love to get to talk theater.
I know. Happy place or what?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you so much, Katie. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Acting Coach Network podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure you're following. And if you've got a moment, I would love you to leave a quick review or share this episode with someone else in the industry who might just need it. You can find me on Instagram at the Acting Coach Network. And if you're looking for support to grow your coaching business or creative career without burning out, check out the latest tips, tricks, and behind the scenes over on my Instagram. And you can also find my latest free resource in the show notes. I'll be back soon with more real conversations, expert insights, and tools to help you build a business you love. Until next time, keep going, stay kind to yourself, and I'll see you soon.